Joe. Welcome back. How you guys doing? It's been a minute. It's actually been like 2 days. 2 days. But we have Markus Winkelhock, the Unbeatable record. Shout out to man Ben Average for this video, for the video suggestions. He's been requested for a minute, but finally got around to it. First thing first, hope you guys are doing well. Amazing, wonderful. F1 season starts about what, 2 exact months. You can say March 20th. Very looking forward to it. But back. I'm sorry about the last another day or two. I'm still on the high. But we're getting back to F1 videos, man. Like I said, it's we're getting there. Like I said, I'm still making some stupid ass mistakes. That's all me. I need to be better with that. But like I said, thank you for you guys at least coming to me and telling me to get right, which is my job to do. I'm not just doing these just to do them. Like I said, I'm trying to learn the sport. I have a pretty sound knowledge of the sport, but like I said, there's still times which I'm confusing somebody with this person and just making simple mistakes which we've already gone over. But anyway, let's go and get into it, man. Don't forget to like the video and sub as well. Now let's get started.
As a sports person, which of course I know so much about, there's only one thing that you dread as much as losing, and that's being a one-hit wonder. What that means is someone who's shown exceptional talent at whatever they're doing, and then has never been able to replicate that same success again. Generally, people are quick to cast them off to the side as just someone who got a bit lucky or managed to fluke it. Like Yano truly. However, the focus for this video isn't on just another one-hit wonder. This guy is genuinely respected, and his name is Markus Winkelhock. In his first and only F1 start,
Winkelhock.
He took arguably one of, if not the worst car on the grid, and pulled a 33-second lead. But as always, we can't go about proclaiming that Markus Winkelhock is the greatest driver to ever grace this earth if we haven't got anything to back it up, and that of course means looking into his junior career. Winkelhock was born in Stuttgart, Germany, a city synonymous with the motor racing industry, playing host to the Porsche headquarters and apparently being considered the birthplace of the modern auto industry. So if Winkelhock wanted to have a career in brum cars, he was certainly at an advantage already. In 1998, Winkelhock began his car racing career in the Formula Koenig series, where he finished second overall, with 2 pole positions and 3 race wins. Following on from this promising start, Winkelhock graduated into the German Formula Renault series in 1999. His results weren't exactly bad here either. Over the course of 8 rounds, he took 1 pole position and 2 wins, ultimately finishing 4th in the standings. The following year, he began racing in Formula Renault 2000 cars, competing in the Formula Renault 2000 Euro Cup and the Formula Renault 2000 Italy series. Across both of these series, the results left a lot to be desired, finishing 6th in the Euro Cup and 21st in the Italian series. Between 2001 and 2003, Markus Winkelhock competed in Formula 3 exclusively, where he picked up a total of 6 wins and never finished higher than 4th in the championship. Admittedly, these were hardly the results of a future world champion, but hey, what do I know? The following season, in 2004, Winkelhock made the step into one of the most prestigious racing series on the planet, Deutsche Tourenwagen Masters, otherwise known as DTM. His results here were...
Yeah, I would have never guessed that. But it seemed like he started off pretty well, and then I guess the higher that he got, and it kind of got bad. But they did say in Formula 3, I think he got like 6 wins, which it's a win. A win's a win. But I think a lot of people expected more, like what Buddy just said. But it's early on. I mean, he races a lot. It seems like he's racing in a whole bunch of different competitions, mainly German competitions. And I actually didn't even know like car racing. I mean, I do know personally, actually take that back. I actually didn't really know car racing was actually that big in Germany. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. But like I said, Porsches in Germany, so.
Nothing much really, taking no wins, no podiums, no points, and ultimately finishing 19th in the championship, ahead of current F1 safety car driver Bernd Maylander. This was rather fitting, as both of these drivers have led every F1 race that they've ever taken part in, but more on that later. In 2005, Winkelhock once again made a return to Formula Renault, where he put on a fairly decent show. After failing to be classified at the first round, he took his first podium in the series during round 2. There then followed a string of bad luck and bad form for the German, failing to score points on 2 of the next 3 races and not even starting the other one. The rest of the season was much better for him, however, as he took 3 wins and 3 podiums, which ultimately helped him to finish the season in 3rd, with Robert Kubica taking the championship. In 2006, Winkelhock had his first taste in Formula 1 as the Midland test driver. Lofty heights, eh? I'd go so far as to say that Winkelhock was lucky to only have the test role and not a full-time drive, because seriously, it must have been painful to drive that car. I mean, it retired from most races it entered and it never once scored a point. The situation was so bad that the team had to resort to using an illegal rear wing, and even that didn't help their efforts, but maybe that's because they got disqualified from the round in which they used it. On the 7th of September of that year, these poor results came to a head, with Midland being forced to sell the team to Spiker Cars, and it was looking like the team was on its way out, and with that, Winkelhock's F1 dreams would be crushed. Or would they? Winkelhock was re-signed to the team, whose name was now Spiker F1, and although he remained as their test and reserve driver, it was still better than nothing, and hey, if the job pays well, then who was he to complain?
So, as a test driver, like a reserve, so I'm just assuming you're really just testing cars. Basically, you don't really get like a chance to actual race in F1 unless it's like an injury or sickness, whatever. I mean, I'm not gonna say that it sucks, but you would think some of these drivers actually do want to race, like not just be a reserve driver or a test driver or whatever.
During the first 9 rounds, the team's full-time drivers Adrian Sutil and Christian Albers did their best to drag results out of the car, but their efforts were ultimately in vain, as the team failed to score a point at all in the first 9 rounds. Due to a lack of sponsorship money, Albers was fired from his seat at the team, and Sakon Yamamoto was drafted in to complete the end of the season. However, in what was to be a poetic plot twist, the team needed a driver to race in the European Grand Prix at the Nürburgring, just as a placeholder while everything was finalised with Yamamoto. This was to be Winkelhock's first and only F1 race, and boy did he make an impact.
That's what's up.
The 2007 European Grand Prix was set to be a thriller of a race, with torrential rain forecast and Winkelhock on the final grid slot. On the formation lap, he made a decision which would turn out to be the best decision he could possibly have made. He started from the pit lane instead of 22nd on the grid, which could hardly be that big of a penalty anyway, so it was worth the risk. During the first lap of the race, it began to rain, even more heavily than the teams had predicted, and so everyone began diving into the pits to fit the intermediate tyre. Well, everyone except Winkelhock, as he was already on the wets. But what's this? The race leader has missed the pit lane. Kimi Räikkönen has to complete another treacherous lap on the dry tyre, which dropped him down to 7th position by the time he was on the correct tyre. And who's this coming round the final corner? It's Markus Winkelhock. His strategy gamble had paid dividends, and he went sailing past the race leader, opening up a huge gap in a Spiker. I'm sure I don't need to highlight this anymore, but this was the same car that had struggled to even finish a race this season, and yet here was Markus Winkelhock sailing into the lead on his debut. The rain got worse again, and this time everyone had to box for the wet tyre. Except Magic Marcus. His lead was once again extended to a massive 33 seconds. By this point, the rain was pretty bad, with 5 cars going straight on into turn 1 in an incident that more closely resembled a Forza race than the highest level of motorsport. By this point, the FIA had realised it was too dangerous, and they red flagged the race on lap 3. When the rain,
Winkelhock was probably upset. I would be upset too. I would have been heck of upset. You know what I mean? You already predict. You already know. You already know like the rain's gonna happen, stuff like that. So you having wet tires. Everybody else is coming in for intermediate. You got a 33-second lead over Kimi, whatever. Actually, Kimi dropped to 7th place, but over the other drivers. So it seemed like everybody's smooth sailing, but F1, when it gets too bad, rain condition wise, you gotta pull it in. It's probably sucked because everybody probably came in, got the right tires, and yeah, it was over with. It was over with.
Finally cleared up, the cars were pushed onto the grid and Winkelhock had an open road ahead of him, making him the only driver to start last and first in the same race. Of course, during the red flag period, Winkelhock had lost the enormous gap he'd opened up, And so on the start, the natural order of things was immediately resumed, and ultimately his hydraulics lost the will to live on lap 13. Of course, Spiker were contractually obliged to keep Yamamoto, and plus Winkelhock didn't bring nearly as much money as Yamamoto did. And for a team as desperately in need of cash as Spiker, there was never a choice really. Despite proving to the F1 world that he was clearly a driver who knew how to make a good strategy call, unlike Ferrari, this was to be the first and last time that Winkelhock would compete in a Grand Prix. Having had just 13 racing laps in F1, Winkelhock had certainly left a mark. He is to this day the only F1 driver to have led every race he's taken part in, a record that not even Senna or Hamilton could match. Although he was presented with some slightly unusual circumstances, you can't argue that Winkelhock was a bad driver. I mean, you can't lead a race unless you keep the car out of the gravel track, which was more than his teammate, or in fact 25% of the grid, could manage. Granted, it was unlucky that Winkelhock would have gone on to win the race, even without the red flags and the hydraulics failure, simply because he was driving a Spiker. On certain racetracks, the Spiker could be 5 seconds a lap slower than McLaren and Ferrari, which even back then was the motorsport equivalent to a year.
So Spiker was shit. Very, very, very bad.
Very bad. The F1 community, or at least most of it, seems to love this guy. Granted, his junior career was never indicative of someone who could go on to win a world championship, but hey, not every good driver wins the championship. I mean, just look at Rubens Barrichello. The reason this guy is so popular among F1 fans is because of just how unlucky he was. Again, it was pretty obvious that he wouldn't have gone on to win the race, but he still could have easily brought in Spiker's first points of the season. Had Winkelhock been racing for a better funded team, like maybe McLaren, and he was in the exact same situation as he was at Spiker, I'm sure that he'd have won the race, and he might well have earned himself a race seat, seeing as the team weren't as desperate for money. Usually at this point of the video, I'd mention a few drawbacks to Winkelhock's F1 career, but seeing as it only lasted 13 laps, you'd struggle to find much wrong with him. I mean, he finished, well, didn't finish, higher than his teammate, which instantly makes him better than the likes of Mahavir Raghunathan,
oh god,
or Sebastian Vettel. Of course, Winkelhock didn't just disappear off the surface of the earth after his very brief F1 stint, so he instead spent the rest of his years taking part in sports car racing. If you want to know more about what he did in his post-F1 career, then I'll leave a link to Jeb Motorsport's video in the top right hand corner and the description. As for me, at the time of Winkelhock's magic moment, I was 2 years old, so I can't exactly give much insight as to what I felt like at the time because, let's face it, at 2 years old I was probably caught up watching Peppa Pig or some other high quality TV programs like that. That said, I have watched the full race replay and I have nothing but respect for Winkelhock. Even without the benefit of context, it was pretty easy to figure out that first place was not a usual day at the office for the Spiker team. If I'm honest, I fully expected him to go on to win the race, but of course it was never to be. Who knows what Markus Winkelhock's F1 career could have been? And who knows, maybe we'll see him back in F1 again. Okay, maybe that's just wishful thinking, but I mean, hey, we'll never know until it happens. But yeah, that's about it for this video, and I mean, look, it's a miracle that I managed to stretch 13 laps on for this long. If you enjoyed it, then I'd appreciate it if...
Shut him in, John Warren again. That sucks, because you would think, he led, 13 laps. You would think Spiker would want to bring him back, but obviously he wasn't as popular as, I think, Yamamoto. And like I said, they needed money, so of course you are going to go with the more popular guy. But I would have at least had him back in some sort of capacity, you know what I mean? But anyway, hope you guys did enjoy it. Markus Winkelhock, the Unbeatable record. You guys don't get like and sub. Come to Blake Guys Thoughts and Reactions. We'll see you guys later.